But I want to teach you in a kind of quirky way to explain this thing about sharps and flats, which we're going to cover now, in the way that my classical teacher, a guy called Rob Johns, phenomenal classical guitarist and a great teacher, and became a great friend. So anyway, the way he explained to me is quite simply this. If we go back many, many, many years ago, to days of Robin Hood, if you like, or even beyond, all the local musicians, jesters, knew at the time was that if the Sheriff of Lincoln had a scrap with the Sheriff of Nottingham or Sheffield or wherever, and we won, then they'll just be playing happy major chords. They didn't really mix minor chords. They didn't really know what they were. They just knew that's for a different day. But we've won, so it's just major chords. C, F, G, C, F, G, major chords. But if we lost, and then they basically went into the minor field because it's a bad day, we've lost. So it could be things like A minor, E minor, D minor, A minor, E minor, D minor. And that was it. But in peacetime, if the musicians caught jesters in Lincoln wanted to know what the guys were doing over in Newark or Stoke-on-Trent or wherever, they'd have to travel over there and have a listen. And what they found was that, the musicians in Newark were doing this happy feel, the same as we are, but at the time they didn't really know what the chords with the notes were named, but they knew that, for example, we were doing C, F and G, but these guys in Newark were doing C, G and D. So we've got two chords the same, G and C, but you're playing D major and we're playing F major. What's going on there? And keeping the same feel. And it was the same with the minor. For example, there'd probably be we'd be playing A minor and E minor and D minor. They might be playing A minor, E minor and B minor. Now this is what's going on. So the monks basically got wind of this and thought, well, there's got to be some sort of formula happening, some sort of formula. So they came across what they decided was starting at a note, and they went up on a musical instrument, and they basically discovered the musical alphabet as we know it. It's A through to G sharp. There's obviously no H. I'm not trying to teach anybody to suck eggs, but in my years I have been asked that, and it's because, as we know, the next note after G sharp is A again, because it's the octave of the previous A played. So they wrote down and they discovered a formula for the major scale, okay, because every major scale has a tonal set pattern for that scale. For example, even if you didn't know the major scale, but you knew what a semitone and a tone was, I could say to you, put your finger on the 3rd fret on the 6th string, as most of us know, that's the note G, and play a full tone, and then play another full tone, and play a semitone, another tone, etc, 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 until we end up back at G again, an octave higher. And what you've just played, with me giving you the step pattern, is a major scale. So basically what you're looking at is this. So we've got our C major scale there, and you can see the step pattern of tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Don't worry about the G being in blue, we'll come to that in a minute. When they'd done that, they then discovered another thing. If I put my finger there, forgetting that tone there, that you've got 4 notes which are covered over a space of a tone, tone and a semitone over here. And also you'll find that the pattern repeats itself for 4 notes here with the same tone, tone, semitone. They decided to call that a tetrachord, which is basically 4 notes which follow on together with that equal spacing of tone, tone, semitone. Don't ask me why they called it. They gave it the word tetrachord, because, like, why did we call black black? Why didn't we just call it dark? Why didn't we just call it green? It is what it is. I have no answer, but tetrachord. So what they did with that then, and when they've discovered this formula, they thought, right, let's see if we take the D and bring it down and do the same thing. Well, I'm not going to do it that way, because if I did, you would end up with different sharps here, there and everywhere. What I'm going to show you is the formula for getting them in the right order. So you'll end up with C major, no sharps or flats. The next one we do will have one sharp, the next one 2, next one 3, 4, 5, all the way up. So if we take what is known as the lower note of the upper tetrachord, obviously the lower tetrachord is the lowest note, starting from the lowest note up, and that's the upper tetrachord. So take the lowest note of the upper tetrachord, or, which some of you may have well heard, which is known as the cycle of fifths, the fifth above the root, so G. So if we take G down and put it there, and put our same formula over tone, tone, semitone, tone, tone, etc., and we follow it down, as we know, C to D is a tone, D to E is a tone, E to F is normally just a semitone. But because our formula is telling us to make it a tone, we've got to make that a sharp, because then the sharp, F sharp to G is now a semitone. So I hope you get that. That is the G major scale. If we didn't do this, then all we would be playing is basically G to G, if the F was natural, in C major, which becomes a mode, which is a mixed Lydian mode, the fifth mode of C, which we won't get into that at the moment. That's a good while away before we get into that, but I hope you understand that. So putting our formula for the major scale from G, you find that we've got an F sharp, and the key signature for G major is F sharp. So when you see a musical stave and it's got one sharp on it and you know where the notes are, that sharp will be over the note F, which basically is the key of G major. Or it could be its relative minor, but again, we'll get onto minors and relative minor, majors, etc. later on. But just now we're just concentrating on the G major scale and finding sharps and flats. So if we do the same again, take the D this time, which again is the lower note of the upper tetrachord or the fifth above, and we bring it down, you'll notice that putting our formula on it again, that the F sharp is there because each new key inherits the previous key sharp, and hopefully you'll see now why I've gone to the fifth rather than doing C, D, E, F, G, etc., because they'll be all over, because the next page next step will have 4 sharps, the next one will have 6 sharps, the next one will have 2 sharps, etc. Well, this is the correct order, so we're slowly building it up. So you've got F sharp, which is brought down to the D, alright, and we follow the formula across again. So you come here, B to C is normally a semitone, but it isn't. Our formula is telling us to do it as a full tone, so that makes the C now become C sharp, and finally back to D. So the key signature for D major is F sharp and C sharp. It's also, like I say, when I get onto relative minors, it'll be that as well, but don't worry about that at the moment. So I hope you can see that. So if we take that down again on the A, we find that again the C is being carried down, the F sharp has been carried down, but we have a new sharp, G sharp. So the key signature for A major is F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, because it goes in order: F sharp, C sharp for D major, F sharp for G major, F sharp, C sharp and G sharp for A major. And then the next step, which I'm going to leave you guys to do, is to try it yourself and bring the E down and put the formula down, and you'll find that you'll have these sharps still in it, but one new one. And then you take the next one down and the next one down, to hopefully you will end up with all sharps, C sharp major, everything sharp. But as you go through that, you'll find that F isn't there, because F doesn't belong in the sharp keys. it belongs in the flat keys. So what they did was exactly the same sort of process, but rather than taking the fifth above or the lower note of the upper tetrachord, they took the higher note of the lower tetrachord or the fifth below, hence the cycle of fifths. So a fifth below the root is given as F, or the higher note of the lower tetrachord gives us F. And we take F down and we put our formula over that again, and you'll find out that we inherit and we get a flat. And the key signature for F major is B flat. And that's why the key signature for F belongs in the flat keys, not the sharp keys. So if you was to take that down again, B flat, which is, as I say, the fifth below the root, or the fourth note, the high note of the lower tetrachord, you end up with B flat, and you follow that down, you'll find E flat. So the key signature for B flat major is B flat and E flat. And if you follow E flat down again, we get our new flat, but we've inherited the previous flats. Alright, and that is how you find the sharps and flats. So again, I shall leave that with you, so hopefully you end up following it down, continuing growing every flat at a time, so you end up with all 7 flats, which will be C flat major. If you can't get it or don't get it, PM me and we'll go through it again for you, but hopefully that makes sense. Good luck. By all means give us a shout, and hopefully I'll get loads of thumbs up that you've got it in your head and it makes sense. Then we can move on to the next thing, which is obviously working on the relative minor keys, and also then how chords can come about, major chords, minor chords in a key. Good luck, God bless, stay safe.